I was a retail bread salesman for Omar Bakery for 5.5 years back in the late 40s. Then I became a wholesale bread salesman for Butternut Bakery, which was Interstate Bakery Corporation, where I served retail grocery stores, supermarkets, and restaurants for another 4 or 5 years. The bakeries went on strike, the inside bakeries went on strike, and the salesmen were out of work. So in between being a wholesale bread salesman, I investigated. There was a grocery store that was going to be sold, or the lady was going to retire. So my wife Betty and I and my kids, 3, Bill, David, and Roxanne, we bought the Evans Street Grocery on 16th and Evans in the year of 1960. It was a mom and pop grocery store, and it was a 6-day operation of the grocery store. And if it wasn't for my wife and my 3 kids working in the store, and of course my father-in-law, Sam Wiseman, gave us an awful lot of good advice and help, we'd never been able to make a success of our business. We liquidated and closed the grocery store in about 1969. And in the meantime, I was a little older, and I didn't know exactly what to do. Back in the days of the Jewish independent grocery stores and wholesale supermarkets, there was a number of Jewish grocery stores that were in business. I'll mention a few of them now, and I'll continue with the names and the locations as I go along. First of all, North Omaha, there was a Lorcas store on North 24th Street by Miller Park. It was a family-owned store. A little bit further south was Bedford Market on 42nd Bedford, owned by Max Falk. In the Benson area, there was Louis' Market, owned by Louis Paperini and his 3 or 4 son-in-laws. Then there was a Ross IGA store about on 63rd and Maple. There was a Newman's grocery store on 49th and Dodge. Just a block away, there was a Summers big supermarket on 48th and Dodge. Going toward downtown, there was a Frieden grocery store on 18th and St. Mary's. On 28th or 29th and Cumming, Harry Nudell had a grocery store, and his brother Ben Nudell had a grocery store on 16th and Wirt. A little further south on 24th and Lake was Tuckman Brothers Supermarket. Used to call them supermarkets then. 24th and Lake. Then Sam and Betty Alloy had their grocery store, 16th Evans Street Market grocery store at 16th and Evans. Years ago, Sam Wiseman, my father-in-law, had a red and white store on 24th and Binney. And years and years before that, Al and Sadie Cohn had a neighborhood grocery store at the same location as Sam and Betty's store on 16th and Evans. Al's brother, Al Orch, and his wife had a grocery store on 20th and Grace. I think it was owned by his in-laws, the Brodskys. Abe Schloff had a grocery store on Bedford, called Bedford Market on 28th and Bedford. Meyer Meyerson had a very, very big volume store called the Garden Market on 20th and Pinckney. 20th and Clark Street was Jack Schrago and his father had a grocery store. A block further south, Dave and Arlene Bieber had a store on 20th and Charles Street. And one block away on 19th and Charles, the Nuckmans had a grocery store on 19th and Charles. 19th and Paul Street, there was another Jewish grocery stall. I believe the name was Flax. Then a little bit further north on 16th and Locust, Don and Harry Cohn had a grocery store on 16th and Locust. And they also had a store on Park Avenue in Leavenworth. And a few blocks south of Leavenworth on Park Avenue, Sam Cohn had a grocery store on Park Avenue and Woolworth Street. A little bit south, going on 16th Street, Omaha Potato Market was 16th and Burt. Across the street was the Super Duper store by Gary Sherman, had a supermarket there. Going a little bit further west, which at them days was West Omaha, 40th and Cumming. Rosenblatt's had a grocery store. Then on 24th and Clark, Ben Blatt had a grocery store across the street from Adler's Bakery. And one block to the south, on 24th and Clark, Ratner's had a grocery store. 24th and Lake, there was a Skolnick, I can't think of his first name, had a store. This is back in the 40s, 1940s, 24th and Lake. Then years later, he also had a store on 27th and Binney. Going back on North 24th Street, 24th and Franklin, there was a Turner's Deli, Delicatessen. Then a block south, there were 2 blocks south on 24th and Seward, Adler's had a Delicatessen on 24th and Seward. And years later, there was this grocery store called Uncle Sam's around 24th and Hamilton Street. Years later, there was a store on 24th and Cumming called Passers. And then going to South Omaha area, Ruffman's had a grocery store on South 24th between L and M. Then there was a big department store and super grocery store, South 24th and Q. Phillips Department Store had a big grocery department there. Going back north on 50th and Center, Steve Feldman had a grocery store. Then later, he had a store on 50th and Leavenworth. Then on 50th and Leavenworth, years later, Max Katz had a grocery store on 50th and Leavenworth. Then a few blocks to the west, Walner's had a real nice grocery store on 52nd and Leavenworth. On 57th and Center was Abe Trading Center, owned by Abe, Harold, and Bill Wolfson. On 35th and Leavenworth, Perlman's grocery store had a real nice supermarket there. 24th and Franklin, Belzer's had a nice grocery store on the corner of 24th and Franklin. 32nd and Frederick, Charlie Kimmel and his brother Marty Kimmel had a grocery store called Foodland. 35th and Center, Mr. Radaziner and his son Bennett had a grocery store on 35th and Center across from Evans Ice Cream. Some years earlier, Walner's, I can't think of his first name, 22nd and Jones, called Drake Court Grocery Store. Then Plotkin Brothers had a grocery store on 24th and Leavenworth. And they also had one at 16th and Yates Street, which is north of Clark. Then they had, Plotkin Brothers had a store on 20th and Chicago Street. 30th and Taylor, Northside Produce. Oscar Diamond had a grocery store there also. Going toward downtown, one of the nicest supermarkets you'd ever want to see was 16th and Harney, called Central Market. Dave Chorney's father had a grocery store on 12th or 13th and Farnham called Chorney's. The exact name of the store I don't recall. Sal Martin had a grocery store in South Omaha around 24th and Railroad Avenue. Then years later, Baker Supermarkets had a number of stores in Omaha. These are all Jewish independent owners of grocery stores. And Harold Cooperman, his first grocery store was 16th and 4th. Later on it was called Bob's Market. Then there's No Frills Supermarket owned by Harold Cooperman. Earlier days, 28th and Binney, Harry Lewis had a grocery store in 28th and Binney. Mo and Renee Hendelman had a grocery store on Saddle Creek and Hamilton Street. They also had the grocery store prior to this store on Saddle Creek. They had a store on 24th and Leavenworth. There was a grocery store 24th and Charles, Freed's Delicatessen, right next to Himmelblum's and Forbes Bakery. Then 24th and Charles, Adler's Delicatessen. Then there was a little grocery store right around the corner from my mother's house on Corby Street on 19th and Maple. Max Katz had a nice little neighborhood little store. Then there was Hinky Dinky stores. There was a number of them throughout the city. Prior to Sam and Betty buying the Evans Street Grocery, Sally Myers, who was a sister to Abe Wolfson, had a grocery store, and she retired and moved to Florida because of her age and her health. 29th and DuPont. It's the store, the building is not there anymore. Nate and Sylvia Siglin had a grocery store there that I used to serve when I worked for Butternut Bakery called ShopRite. On 34th and 4th, Abe Pradell had a grocery store behind Fort Omaha. 90th and Lake, Food City had a big supermarket. They also had a big supermarket on 120th and Center. 16th and Cumming Street, Beehive Grocery Store had a grocery store, and they did a very big volume on delivery. Paramount Liquor Market had a grocery store on 24th and Deer Park. Sam Freed had a grocery store on Spalding called Spalding Market, 27th and Spalding. And Sal Lagman had a grocery store on 45th and Bedford in Omaha. I'm continuing with some more independent grocery stores. Sam Brick, my wife's uncle, had a grocery store on 27th and Dewey Avenue. Norman Plotkin had a grocery store on 34th and 4th Street. Going back years ago, my father-in-law Sam Wiseman had a red and white store at 16th and Evans, and also at a different time of the years, he had one at 28th and Ames Avenue. I think I mentioned Mo and Ray Hendelman had a store on Saddle Creek and Charles Street. Saul Martin's Grocery had one prior to the Hendelmans on Saddle Creek and Charles. 24th and Mason Street, Albert Bieber had a grocery store. This had to be in the 1930s. Philip Wiseman, my father-in-law's brother, had a grocery store on 27th or 28th and Lake. This had to be in the 1940-41 era. And I can't forget a real good friend of mine, Manny Simon, had a grocery store on 33rd and Lake Streets. There might be a few others that I can't recall right now, but if I neglected any, I'm sorry, but my memory didn't coherent to remember any more of the independent Jewish grocers.